Hello survivors and welcome to First Aid Spray, a Resident Evil podcast by fans for fans. This is a special bonus edition of the show called Off the Record. It's been exactly 1 year since we put out our first episode on the 28th of November 2018, so to mark the occasion we're releasing this little bit of extra stuff. Of course, to mark our 1 year anniversary. So it's a celebration and it's a thank you to all of you guys that have supported over the year. Your words and your sharing means absolutely everything to this show. So as a thank you, this episode is made up of lots of excess material that's been cut from final episodes. Most of you will be aware that we record on Discord, which frankly just means hitting the record button as soon as I join the call and just letting it run. So stuff gets cut. Most of it's sort of like tangential. There's lots of interesting and amusing conversation pieces. There's some bloopers in here. It's a real smorgasbord of stuff. Just something extra to tide you guys over until season 2. Before we get to all those excess clips though, we also recorded a sort of roundtable discussion following episode 15, the 5 of us that were on that episode, talking about how the show came to be, how we've all kind of grown as a group since then, and talking about the year as a whole. So that was good fun. Obviously Jordan couldn't make that one, but he has sent a little additional message in that plays as well. So this is just a little mix of extras that we hope you enjoy as we move onwards to season 2 of First Aid Spray. Have a good week, guys. Okay, as a special little segment of this bonus episode, we're doing a brief little roundtable chat with the most of us here. Like you heard in our previous episode 15, Jordan couldn't make it, unfortunately. But we're going to be talking a little bit about the first year as a show. There's been kind of a snowball of a thing, really. I don't think I ever really told the story on air. There was never any real reason to go into it. But I recently, funnily enough, was on another podcast. I did a guest spot we were talking about the podcast and the creative, and I kind of told it on there, and it made me realise, I never really spoke about how First Aid Spray came into being. Was just the fact that I'm one of these people that if you have an idea, I just can't shake it, and just boom, Resident Evil podcast just popped in one day, and I have to do something about that. So my first memory of the whole show is just going to Steve and basically going to him on Facebook Messenger and essentially shaking him by the shoulders as much as that's possible and going, "Help me, Steve, help. I have an idea for a podcast. I don't know what to do about this." He was the person that I knew at the time with the most Resident Evil knowledge. And from there, he was the person that said, well, why not this person, this person, this person? Adam's running the board game group with you. It makes sense to me. You recently, referring to me, did a video with Jordan, see how he feels about it. And if we can get Sherwood in, that'd be a great get. So that's kind of how it all came together in the beginning. And I just remember us having those Discord conversations, just kind of like me running down a long document of ideas about what the show was going to be, not really knowing if it was going to come together. Because obviously, keep in mind, most of us weren't really that familiar with each other, especially not in a speaking over voice call kind of capacity. And something that people have said to me about the show is that what they like is that it just, it comes across that we're a group of friends now, which is funny because we didn't really know each other that well about a year ago. And it's snowballed into this thing now, which is very much taken over a large part of my life, and that's not a complaint in any way. It's the large part of my creative focus now. So this stupid little idea I had, where I went, Steve, help, and he wrapped it up in a bow for me. And now First Aid Spray turns 1 year. So thank you, all of you guys, obviously, and thank you, Steve, for being the person who sort of gave it the kick to make it the thing it is.
Aww.
It was lovely, yeah. And I want to say, I do consider you guys my buddies now.
Absolutely.
It's nice. We're 100%.
Go ahead.
It's nice. You said Steve was the person you roped in because you thought he knew most about Resident Evil. Obviously, we now know that I'm the person that knows most about Resident Evil. That's just on the books. That's official. We don't need to go into it. We don't need to start calling me like a special title every time we get together or anything like that. That's unnecessary. But
thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's been sanctioned by a professional DM. Okay?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Doesn't get any more professional than that. But yeah, I'd love to echo what Sai said. It kind of came together, at least on my end. I'm saying it because I didn't really have to do much work, but it felt like it came together pretty organically, and from our first talking, we just kind of slid into what I feel like is a bit of a rhythm. It's never felt awkward, which is nice. And I think that's why we kind of continue to enjoy to do it. So
that's the thing, really. It's like, it doesn't necessarily matter how much work there is. I'll take most of that on as long as it's entertaining and people are enjoying themselves. And obviously it's going to come across that way, and that's why it's still so much fun to do.
I think I kind of jump in on this. For those of you who, people I guess wouldn't see what happens behind the scenes, but I think it's fair to say that Sai really does do the lion's share of everything.
Definitely, yeah.
And, deserves particular praise in terms of that, because, quite frankly, our job is to turn up and look pretty, and say nice things when he says, when he sort of leads us into the conversation with increasingly esoteric introduction. But, it's been a lot of fun. I must admit, I guess I'm kind of the one of you guys who doesn't necessarily sort of interact quite as much as the thing, purely because work generally tends to take me away from things quite a bit. But I think this has been a really nice experience in terms of just actually reaching out to the community and understanding there are people out there who love this series of games as much as I always did when I was growing up, and it's been really, really awesome. Basically for the year, just to be able to chat to people and hang out with people and just basically, experience kind of all sorts of wackiness in terms of crazy fan ideas, or alternatively, with different things that people think we could do with the podcast, or kind of just generally have chats which are an absolute nonsense. I'm hoping the outtakes are part of this episode. But,
Rambo as a unit of measurement is finally coming out for the world.
Resident Evil Rambo, and so on.
I mean, if I could say something off what Owen said as well, I'm in a very unique position where I knew nothing about this game a year ago, and I didn't care about the game. I didn't really. The best horror I had ever played was Alien Isolation, and it was a good game, right? But when Steve introduced me to it on YouTube, and then I got in touch with you, Sai, and the first thing we did together was the voiceover, and then you invited me over to talk about Rebecca Chambers, and then I did that. I could have spoken about her for about 4 or 5 hours, and it made me realize that this is another passion of mine, and you brought that ahead. Brought these characters that are just on paper that I deal with characters on paper all the time, and it's awesome to feel that for another franchise that is other than Aliens and other than D&D. To bring it into Resident Evil as well, I've got this unique angle to look at from, and I thank Steve for that, and you, Sai, and the rest of you, because I felt very at home, just as the rest of you have, just being here. The little amount of time I've spent here, and I was absolutely honored a few weeks ago when you promoted me, I guess, to a member of First Aid Spray, because I didn't expect that at all. And
I pulled a First Aid Spray can out and put it on both his shoulders. It was really emotional.
it was a really nice surprise, and I think you should be extremely proud of what you've created, and I'm really excited to get into season 2 if you want me back, and
Sorry,
if you don't
buddy.
just throw me to the wayside, I understand. You lost the quiz.
Time to tell him.
Discussions are ongoing. That's the polite way of saying it.
To be fair, it's worth saying, one of the things when this show came together, like I said, I was so unsure about who would make up that panel and stuff, especially because all these different people that Steve suggested that necessarily didn't know each other that well and that kind of thing. But one of it was I was listening to other Resident Evil podcasts. And of course, we talked about them on the show, and we're going to be talking about them again. We've made connections with these shows online as well. So again, special thank you to all these other Resident Evil communities. I don't even really want to start listing them, because I don't want to forget anyone. There's so many great little pockets of the Resident Evil community. You're all awesome. But yeah, some of that a little bit was like pressure to live up to other podcasts a little bit, because a lot of them they know more than we do, honestly, and that's fine. We found our own niche, I think, and part of what I came to realise really early on about First Day Spray, when we're doing the first episode, is bringing in people with different levels of experience, and that's why when you came along, James, and obviously you're playing through the games for the first time with Steve, as we've mentioned online and stuff, it was like it's just a natural fit for our group as well, and there's no reason why we couldn't have you, even though you haven't played every game, because I run this thing, I run Resi Facts, everyone thinks I know everything. I don't. I haven't played every game either. So it's the vibe that's important.
Yeah, it's definitely something that works for us. Like you were saying, we've got different levels of knowledge, and that kind of helps. Sherwin is like an ungodly font of knowledge of early Resident Evil, like just unbelievable. And then, you and Steve have got great knowledge of the series as general. I'm definitely a lot more casual in my knowledge, but I have played the series since it came out, so I'm very familiar with it. And then, we've got James, obviously, who's kind of like breaking into the series, so it's good for all comers. I think it's a great thing,
and it's also fed my horror aspect that's gone into other things. So I've done horror D&D one shots that have been heavily inspired by Resident Evil and other films and other kind of games of the same ilk, and I think they've given me a lot of inspiration.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, James, I think that you're going to love Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, I could say that, definitely.
I think that's going to be one that really, connects with you.
Okay, Steve, when can we play it?
Not to peek behind the curtain on another side of things. I mean, we could skip RE6, but people will lynch us.
I'm just going to
do
say,
it out of order.
Yeah, just to peek behind another curtain, I'd prefer if you did get to 7 sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's gonna,
okay. All right.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to be more interesting, for sure.
Yeah, okay. I suppose since I'm talking now, I'll
yeah, Steve, go ahead.
Thank you to all the listeners. Really, that's really cool. Like the amount of people who have just signed up to the Discord and listening and stuff. That really, really is awesome, honestly. And the fact that, I mean, we've all said this point a bit, but I'm going to reiterate it further because, of course, I am. I'm Steve. Hi. But the fact that we're all from very different backgrounds. Like, me and Sai are very omnivorous for the most part of the Resident Evil franchise. Sai is, Sherwin is decidedly much more old school and has favours of, the Game Boy title that we all know is the best, Resident Evil Gaiden. And you've got Adam. Obviously, Adam, you're more of a board game guy overall, Adam. Fair shake, right?
I'm more of a miniatures and board gaming kind of guy, but I do love Resident Evil.
Yeah, and you're the more casual guy. But obviously, Jordan, I think, came on at Remake and has stuck with that, right, from that track. So we're all on very different, not well, how do I put it in words that don't sound like I'm just ham-fisting my...
Too late.
Yeah, I know. No, very different wavelengths, and the fact that we can all
I love you guys, man.
Yeah, we're all on different wavelengths, but we're all very civil about it, and won't ever turn around and say, "No, your opinion is wrong." We'll always just go, "Yeah." I mean, we're all in unanimous approval that whatever Paul W.S. Anderson makes is probably going to be complete hot garbage. But otherwise, I don't think we have many negative things to say either. I mean, we've seen plenty of, shall we say, other groups that we do get along with, but can have a bit more of a negative reaction. I don't think we've ever had a big caustic blowout, and I really do appreciate that about this.
I think that the way we handle those things, which is what I love, is we will just laugh about it. We don't need to be negative. If something's bad, we'll just find it funny.
Like the new Resident Evil film, okay, or TV series or whatever it's going to be. We don't get mad. We don't get upset. We might do an ejected British... But we expect to be directed by a bucket of sand, and we're totally fine with that. Okay?
More
content is just more stuff to talk about, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It gives doing the podcast does give a new perspective on every release, where it's cool, something new to talk about. That's all it comes down to.
I think also it's worth understanding that apparently I get messages, but apparently also that things happen in terms of different games get released in the series. It's a long series now. Resident Evil's been going for God knows how long, and it's just something where lots and lots of different directors, people at Capcom, lots of different people have worked on it. They've all got a different vision for what Resident Evil is. It's evolved over the years, and ultimately, I think one of the greatest things about Resident Evil is it's something you can pick up and just really go with where you want it to be. For me, I think Resident Evil is very much that much more down-to-earth kind of gritty survival horror, in the streets of Raccoon City around the outbreak incident. And I really, unfortunately, think it goes off of the rails a bit as you get to the later games. Other people, by comparison, who sort of, came in and that's what Resident Evil was, that's their Resident Evil world. And they kind of look at these old, weird, clunky things and go, yeah, that's not the same game, or I don't get that. And that's cool, too. I mean, ultimately, Resident Evil can be whatever it is you want it to be. And much like the same thing with the podcast, we're all mature adults. We're all respectful of each other's opinions, and that doesn't diminish our love or our affection for the game series or anything along that way. It just means that we've got a whole bunch of different experience to come talk about, which is kind of what we've all been talking about for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, pretty much. So that means when I come up with an episode, I can go, right, so this person's immediately out because they definitely don't want to talk about it. That kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of fitting that, I'm just sort of trying to wrap this up a little bit now, that we end this first year talking, having that discussion, which is kind of how we started. Like the first episode of the show it's kind of silly, obviously, because we were laughing about it at the time that the first episode was the history of Resident Evil, all of it, trying to fit it into one episode. But yeah, essentially it was us talking for an hour about how it doesn't matter what you like about the series, that's still valid. Like you can come from any aspect of it and still be a fan. It doesn't make you any lesser or any more for whatever. So yes.
So you're saying that my story is canon if I want it to be? Is that what you're saying?
Don't put words in my mouth.
Adam, I dare you, right? I dare you to write a canon that follows James's quiz story.
Yeah, well, James, I'll get in touch and you can send it over to me, and I'll write a companion piece.
Can I just be a really cheeky boy and just say thanks to all, the podcast guests we've had as well, because they stepped up and jumped in on what will probably be a big unknown for them. It's the Broly, Burger Time, and Tony from the Row. It's awesome talking to all three of them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. So it's been a year. Numbers.
That's crazy, isn't it?
It's been a year. It feels like so much longer, but yet at the same time,
it feels both. It feels like it's been a minute, and we've done all these recordings, and it also feels like it's been forever.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. That's a good thing.
And that's the thing. Obviously, there's no point in lying about it. When you're a creator, you're going to look at the numbers. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the focus, but now and then, got to look at the numbers and see what's doing best and how we're getting on. In this year, we've done surprisingly well for a brand new podcast. So again, that's another shout out to the Resi community for sharing us around and obviously listening in and downloading. But yeah, the fact that we've managed to reach so many people so quickly has been really good. And obviously some of that is the fact that we started at such an ideal time with all the hype around Remake 2. But it's sustained, which is good. And we're over 300 Twitter followers in a year, which is, it's not many by any means, but for the little podcast that could, that's pretty good. So yeah, it's been an amazing year. So thank you to everyone who's guested, been on the show in terms of the main panel, people who have contributed file readings, that's obviously been a big part as well, hung out in the Discord in any form, shared stuff. Yeah, it's been great.
I'm going to throw a little thing onto the end here, and it would be awesome if you're listening on an Apple or any kind of device with the iTunes podcast app or the Apple app. Give us a 5-star review and give us a 5-star rating and write a review, because that helps the podcast appear in more lists and appear around the iTunes platform. If we get good reviews and if we get good stars, it will show up in more places.
I think it's a perfect time to close this up. We don't usually do the whole self-fulfillment sort of thing, but I feel like that was fairly apt.
It's good.
They've got a full season to get to it, Si. It's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's good to celebrate progress.
Absolutely.
The people who are still listening at this point, they're just lifers now.
That's it.
There's no escape for them.
Even the mangiest dog can lick its own nuts.
That's possibly the best way to finish this. Thank you, everybody.
Yes.
And good night.
Look forward to season 2. Goodbye.
Hey everyone, Jordan here with a quick message to everybody who's listened to the First Aid Spray podcast over the last 12 months, and I would like to start off by saying thank you, or gracias in Ganado, because that's what they would say. They never said it though. It's been a whirlwind 12 months with the podcast. I couldn't have expected what it's evolved into. I mean, I knew it was going to be fun. I knew there was going to be a lot of laughs, but I couldn't have expected it to kind of evolve into something that has been so dynamic and so fun. We've had some excellent guests on, providing all kinds of knowledge to all the different corners of the Resident Evil universe, all of the different media and the communities. Board games, films, spin-off titles. It's just been so fantastic to watch this podcast evolve over the last 12 months. It's been even better to be part of it. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who has experienced the First Aid Spray podcast in any kind of manner over the last 12 months. Just giving us a shot, just taking a listen, or maybe watching something on the YouTube channel, or even jumping in for the live discussions as we're recording. I mean, I think that's fantastic. It adds a whole layer to it, and I do love that. So please, if you're brave enough, come show up, come chat with us, come have a listen while we're recording. It's a whole lot of fun, and I absolutely enjoy it. I will leave it there, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. The first year of the podcast is over. What can I say? It was a tight. It was a tight. Right, I am gonna get ready for work.
Enjoy.
I should probably do the same.
Yeah, I think we did really well, considering it was this is the first 5-person podcast, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and considering we covered 2 films and there was a lot to cover, I think it was it was
not
a
bad
tight.
at all. All I got was it was a tight, and then he just stopped.
Yeah, me too. That's what I get.
It was.
He went.
That sounds,
he went
that
up
sounds
through
like
the
some
hole.
kind of. That sounds like some kind of English you might find on a T-shirt. It was a.
It was a tight.
No, it was. I just said it was a tight production.
Sounds like a page from Size Resident Evil Choose Your Own Adventure. Up through
That
the
is-
hole. It was a tie.
Fight or run.
See, I'm just picturing
Probably gonna
Sai
be,
in like a smoker's gown with a pipe, like, the full like dad thing. April Fool's Day, and now reading from Psyniac's adventure novel. Oh, yeah.
Love it.
They're going to be like the last line to my memoirs. It was a tight.
Just double checking. They can't just jump in, but they can listen. That's the
So
whole
that's the
shtick,
thing.
right?
I mean, if Colin is free, there'd be a great way to test if we can get someone in and test that, because that would be helpful. Actually, we'll go. I'm going to tag everyone again. I'm sure that's not annoying.
Kick-ass Foley on my headphones.
Yeah. Yeah, that. I might message Colin just to be like, "Can you be free? Can you listen, please?" I totally expected this. It's fine. It's going to be a work in progress, isn't it? So
We call it like a podcast call-in, but then we're like, no, it's a podcast call-in.
yes.
There we go. We have a Colin.
Excellent.
Ah,
And it looks like it's actually been set up because he shouldn't be
He
able to
can't
talk.
talk.
So that's
Either
what
that or
we-
he hit his mute button just to troll you.
I mean, if he wants to try, that's fine. That'd be reassuring. Or he could just like sit there for 45 minutes and then suddenly in the middle of the episode be like, "I agree." Okay, awesome. Looks good so far.
Thanks, Colin. You can off now.
Oh dear.
So I can make myself available as much as possible, but it was just a kind of a heads up on that front.
Yeah, it's a funny sort of timing issue because also for me that day is my brother's birthday, but usually he doesn't do much, and we probably won't be doing anything, especially because he has a kid on the way like this week. So I can't imagine I'll be busy. But there might suddenly be a couple of days beforehand me going, "Oh, f-! So
the best way to spend your birthday is to join in on the live podcast."
Yeah, he's played a Resident Evil game before. Not.
There you go. That's qualification.
Birthday boy podcast.
Yeah, nah, I'm good. If we did like a podcast about specifically only racing games, he'd be well worth it. But anything beyond
that's what I should have said for my answer. I wanted to see a Resident Evil racing game.
Kart Racer.
RE8 is actually just Mario Kart 8, but it's reskinned.
Yeah, that's what I want to see next. I want to see Leon turn up in Smash Bros.
Yes! This should be interesting. I have no idea how we're going to talk about this game, but okay, sure, let's do it.
Do you have any structures to the subjects or anything?
I mean,
like
I've just written down
starting?
the bullet pointers. I'm going to ask everyone sort of how their first playthrough went. I know a lot of you guys have got different experiences in terms of delays on your game, or Steve's case, streaming it for however many hours. About... Oh, no.
Just the way that flashbacks.
Yeah. Then sort of the first impressions, graphics. We'll talk about the gameplay. Then we'll talk about the story.
I kind of took notes as I played through the first time. Mm-hmm. So they're a little bit jumbled. So I might just throw in every now and then.
That's fine. This is going to be fairly open to just sort of however we do it. So
perfect.
Yeah. I only wrote one note during the game. It was just, I hate Mr. X.
Okay, cool. Well, with that all out of the way, we'll move on to our discussion of Resident Evil 2, the board game. I'm going to take a break and have a cough. Oh, sorry, I should have left that in.
Wait, what are we talking about?
Okay.
That killed me, thank you. Taking a drink and then...
Steve.
Yeah, jokes.
Jokes. Right, where's... Sorry, I went a bit common there. Right.
It's my job.
Southern common, not northern common.
Midlands.
Oh, sorry. Right, okay.
Hey, it's northern from west side.
It's true.
Yes.
Everything's northern for me.
Yeah, I'm with Si.
You're even more south than me, so...
Essex boy.
Right, okay.
Sorry, Steve, you're outnumbered there.
Yeah, someone's going to represent the north begrudgingly.
I'm gonna
yeah, they really do.
I'm gonna put out a bad take here, but while we're talking about Resident Evil 2 as a handheld game, the Gamecom release,
it's amazing.
Its ambition is exemplary. Like what it was trying to do, I really quite like and appreciate. Obviously, the execution just couldn't work.
Did you say that? I really like that. Yeah, okay. So let's be realistic here, right? It doesn't. Yeah, I agree with you completely. The ambition is incredible, and you look at it, and it just doesn't have the graphical capabilities. It doesn't have the audio capabilities. It doesn't have so many technical points it falls down on. What it does do is create this really gritty feeling, kind of just really bleak look at Raccoon City.
Yeah, the visual aesthetic actually was kind of cool for what it was.
Yeah. Mm. I loved it. I really, from a generation of gamers who had Game Boy the first time around and everything else. I can really appreciate that as something where it just has a really unique take on it.
I bring it up because I was watching a video the other day, and it like top five worst Resident Evil games, and that was in it, and I just couldn't help but feel I wanted to defend it because I had the Gamecom and it sucked, but like. To actually see what they were trying, like that handheld did not deserve that amount of effort and vision being put into a port for it, because it actually kind of reminded me almost of like a kind of the graphical aesthetic of a point and click adventure that you might have got in the early 90s or something like that, like maybe a very grim King's Quest or something. And yeah, I just thought fair enough, they gave it a go. So I will defend that game, even though the execution did not quite work out.
So
I mean, the areas at least look like what they look comparable to the PS1 parts. That's in itself kind of a decent achievement on the Gamecom. Let's be fair.
Yeah,
So
it almost looks like a D-make.
I can now say I know someone who owned a Gamecom, which is kind of amazing in itself.
I found it in Asda when it was like down to 20 quid, and it came with 2 games.
Okay,
Lights Out and Batman Forever, I think.
It's funny because now I know someone with an N-Gage and someone who owned a Gamecom, so I'm winning. But I was going to ask, as someone you owned the console, is it the best game on the system? I have no idea because I don't know about like any other game that came out other than that. That's the only game I know. So
literally all I could own was Lights Out and Batman Forever, because by that point I'm pretty sure Gamecom was dead and buried.
Oh yeah, probably.
So it was just some surplus stuff that my local Asda somehow got a hold of that they were trying to get rid of. But I'm kind of surprised because there were a lot of games that were planned and released for the Gamecom. I think Duke Nukem was on there as well.
There is 20 games that were released for the Gamecom, and that's it.
Wow. And some of them are kind of recognizable names.
Yeah. Lost World, Jurassic Park.
The contrast was horrible.
Oh,
it really was. I don't know when it released, but it was probably about a decade behind whatever Game Boy had as far as contrast.
Yeah. It came out in 97, so yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Before we jump into the main discussion, I'm going to cough and then edit this out. I should also note, for those of you who don't use Discord that much, there is a mute button down in your bottom left if you're on the computer version.
Yeah,
I don't know about
that's what I've been using. But
cool.
just remember when they call your name to actually turn off the mute. Say hi. I was talking to no one when I made my announcement.
Right, okay, let's get back into.
Are all of the episodes on the YouTube now?
Yeah, I put all 3 of them up last week in quick succession. I had a bit of a stupid, and I was like, I tried to put it up and it wouldn't let me. It said it's too long. And then I went in the settings and all you need to do is click enable long videos. That's it. Brilliant. Why is that even an action that you have to take if you can
should just default
activate?
to that.
Yeah, so
that
episode 1
used to be a big thing, like back in the day, like when YouTube was like not as big as it was now. When like everybody got the 10-minute limit until you had certain privileges.
I don't
even know what it was.
I got the partnership program and it let me upload stuff up to 15. Amazing! I don't know. So yeah, episode 1 is back up on all feeds. Hopefully, it should have been for a couple of weeks ago or so now, and it's on the YouTube if not. Anyway, but yeah,
the reason my videos were 10 minutes long was that it was down to that sort of ingrained mentality that you have a 10-minute limit, so aim for that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I sort of did similar with the reviews a little bit, but some of them sort of got out of hand. Like my Final Fantasy 7 one is 16 minutes long. But there you go.
and the Croc video was pretty.
Yeah,
weighty.
But to be fair,
hey, that was a phenomenal video, to be honest.
Yeah, it was.
How did we have so much to say about Croc?
I know, right? Worrying.
We didn't even mention the crocodile in this one. How did you guys find that?
Yeah, it was okay. I mean, I like that they didn't go too over.
I've got to say, you can open doors in a slower fashion in the original game. You can clearing that crocodile. It just was very fleeting, right? I mean, I don't know if it's different in any of the other runs, but in Leon, it is instantaneous. You're done with it.
Yeah, you dodge it. I think 3 times. You go like left, right, then right.
To be fair, it seems to be on screen more than the original Resident Evil 2, where you basically just let it through the door, then run to the canister, let it drop, and then when it comes around the corner, shoot it, boom, dead. So it's pretty accurate to the original. But yeah, like Steve said, I'm amazed. I played through all of Claire first, and I didn't see it at all, and I was like, "Oh, that's odd."
I mean, there's a giant stuffed alligator toy about the right time. I was dealing with it, like, so
that's true.
That's where it is.
She gets an alligator. It's just.
I mean, I gotta be honest. I still died.
Wow!
Not even in like the kind of like the pattern part, but the actual sort of he's chewing on like the gas pipe. I saw a grenade on the floor. I was like, "Ooh, shiny!" Pick that up. And then I was thinking, "Oh, it wants me to throw the grenade at it." I got ready to do it, and when I went into the stance to throw, I just pulled out my knife instead. I felt like such an idiot, but I did feel very much like Leon Kennedy. I felt very much like a rookie dealing with a 50-foot alligator.
Don't worry, a time will come. The film club podcast start.
I love how it's not one straight podcast. You're going to make it so it's 2 films.
Oh yeah. We're doing 3 of these bad boys.
I mean, I have to watch the last 2.
Yeah. How many live action movies are there again?
6.
6.
So that's we'll do 3 podcasts, 2 apiece.
That's more than Rambo.
Yeah, I guess.
And in less time. That's crazy.
I like the definition of movies is that's more or less than Rambo.
That's more than Rambo, but less than Marvel. That's.
Oh, no! It's just more or less than Rambo. It doesn't even have anything else. That's the metric. It literally, your series of movies is either one of 3 things. It's less than Rambo, the same as Rambo, or more than Rambo. That's the only unit that exists.
I don't measure movies by quality anymore.
The James Bond series is about 5 or 6 Rambos.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's exactly it. It's like you can only measure things in multiples of Rambo.
Oh,
look,
God.
The curriculum at my school was unique.
Next time I see like the trailer for like Fast and Furious 9, I'm just going to say out loud, that's a lot more than Rambo. No one will understand.
Actually, 9. That makes it what? 2 and a bit Rambos.
How many Rambos are there?
4.
There's 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's one that may or may not be in production. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. Why would they do that? Is it like a reboot or like old man
I think
Stallone?
No, I think Stallone still wants to do one, but the plot keeps changing. So he may be fighting one place of the world and then he's fighting somewhere else in the world.
Okay.
It would be a shame if they make it. They kind of led the story to a natural stopping point. And hopefully they don't try to... yeah, that's fair.
No, they're okay films, I suppose.
They're wonderful movies. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. I didn't realise that I was a Rambo in society.
It's fine, Steve. I haven't ever seen a single one.
Wow.
Play the game tonight. That's all I'll tell you.
Obviously, Stallone saw in Rambo 4 that, it used a machine gun to like cut a person in half, and he thought, I want to do that, but bigger.
What if Dolph Lundgren was there as well, and all of my other friends? We shall call it the Expendables.
Yeah.
So, in all fairness, if you've never seen a single Rambo movie, watch the first one. It's actually a movie, as opposed to the others, which are not that. And then, that's quite good. And then it's really good. And then the others, not so much.
Sure. And did you ever play the arcade game? It came out in the 2000s, light gun game in the arcades?
Yes, I did.
That is fantastic.
I played the Commodore 64 game of Rambo.
Boy!
Yeah.
Commodore 64?
I'm old. And oh my God, that was a good game. You could blow up the helicopter that you were trying to get to and thus not be able to carry on any further in the game. Like, for anybody, it's a game where it's one of those old games where you just hold down the shoot button and spin around in random directions. There's so many dudes coming out of the jungle to attack. You randomly hold it down. You look up. The helicopter's just come to the screen. You just watch this bullet going towards it, agonizingly slowly hit the helicopter. Helicopter exposure. Right, got to restart the whole game because now I can't get out. Bearing in mind that means on Commodore 64, turning the thing off, loading the tape back in, and loading the game for another half hour because that's how that works. Oh, they were the good old days.
I remember was like Operation Wolf.
Oh, Operation Wolf was a game.
I had to explain the Commodore to young colleagues at one point, and they just could not get their head around cassette tapes, games on cassette tape. I was just like, yeah.
You see this thing from Guardians of the Galaxy? Games used to be on these.
Yeah, games used to be on them.
I just want to
we used to play Postman Pat on the Commodore 64.
I just want to take a moment to salute. Let's see, Manuel, Daniel, and Ploppy54 for hanging out to listen about Commodore 64 and Rambo as a measurement. It's a wonderful thing.
This is the Discord treatment. This is right now. This is what everyone's here for.
Yeah, I think so. You guys should chat if you need us to discuss, other things in terms of Rambo's as a measurement.
Join us next week for the Rambo podcast.
Yeah. Rambo's imperial measurements.
I'm trying to figure out how many Resident Evil games there are on the metric of Rambo.
Oh, jeez.
I'm trying to think how tall you are in terms of Rambos. Like you're 1.5 Rambos.
I'm thinking like Countdown with the mathematics section. It's like, here's an equation, and it's all these sets of numbers, and then the last panel is always an assortment of Rambos.
Well, that's the point. I think on that one, all of the numbers are Rambo. That's the point. So, I'll take it. It's a Rambo. Okay, multiply by Rambo, and let's see if we can get to Rambo. It's kind of it.
Yeah, and then they go around the panel at the end. It's like, did you manage to get to Rambo? I'm afraid not. The closest I could get was Rambo.
Yeah.
I can count to Rambo to the 200th decimal.
It's how many O's are on the end.
Rambo.00000.
Yeah. It just sounds like you're one of the guys that got shot by the 50 cal in Rambo 4. Like literally, Rambo.
Literally, just being dropped from a helicopter.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, I certainly didn't expect that to come out of just saying, "Wow, that's 4 Rambos."
Oh, jeez.
Actually, now I think about it, right? There's 5 Rambo films, right? Just get the metrics
There's
right.
4 at the minute,
4.
so yeah, there's 4 Rambo and 1 more Final Fantasies.
Yeah. So if you're 6 foot tall, you're 1.5 Rambos.
Yep.
That will not work on dating sites.
1.5 Rambos. Hello. Check out
that's the entire profile. It just says I'm 1.5 Rambos, and that's it.
Yeah. Picture of a red bandana. Actually, no, it's a picture of red bandana and then half of one.
Another, yeah. Right, let's do a break before we do the last bit.
Get those coughs out.
I know. I the thing is, I hit the mute button and it makes the boop noise, and I don't want that in the recording. So now I'm just holding my coughs
your impressive command of your own body, where you can just choose when to cough.
Yeah, it's years of voiceover work and stuff.
All the coughs get saved automatically to the cloud.
It's true.
Upload them later.
Yeah. When I die, there'll just be like a 3-hour file of just me coughing uploaded on my YouTube. That'll be my eulogy.
It's just 1 2-second video with all of them at the same time.
Blows your speakers up.
Whoever watches it dies 7 days later.
Yes. Somebody had a laughing person in the background there. That's going to be impossible to cut out. So there is going to be a random laugh.
Sorry about that.
It's fine. It's fine.
That's good. That gives it character.
Just include that in the spoiler warning at the start of the podcast.
We will be talking about spoilers.
And laughing will be heard throughout.
Mysterious laughter. Yeah.
Maybe we just had an audience. We had a studio audience just laughing along.
Studio audience of 1.
Yeah, the first date today was filmed in front of a live studio audience.
First Aid Spray 98, filmed in Wembley.
All of this is great outtake material, by the way. Right, let's move on.
That's not pretty well, because I've got an interloper stealing their uniform for work. Have a good shift, sweetheart. I love you. Please don't beat me up. Okay, awkward silences. Bye.
Stephen is interlopers.
What the heck was Steve doing?
What? Huh?
I don't know, man.
He was just talking to his Chinese counterfeiter.
Is that where all those discs came from?
Yeah. He's getting an advanced copy of Project Resistance.
Like I said, I'm not really down to clown on that one, but I hope the kids have fun. I'm Roger Ebert. You guys have fun on the lawn.
On the subject of counterfeiting stuff, have y'all seen how the PlayStation Classic at all?
Yeah.
And how easy it is to modify?
I mean, it's trash, so it should be.
You can put RetroArch on it with a flash drive in 5 minutes of your time.
Oh.
And then play whatever the you want on the damn thing.
No, I don't know anything about this because I haven't. Yeah, I do. I've never done it, but I defend my honor.
If you guys are bored, the Classic's $20 right now. At least in the States, it is.
Man, that
Literally
price
5
drop
minutes.
was. I'm not surprised the price drop considering the lineup of games, but geez, that's something else.
Listen, Mr. Driller is a classic, sir. Thank you.
Hey, the States got Parasite Eve 1. I had to go through loops to get that. Ooh.
We didn't get Parasite Eve 1 on the Classic.
Was it just Japan that did?
Just in no, we didn't.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go then.
Damn. Now I'm sad and angry.
Yeah, I had to literally make an American account on PS3, go through loops, go through PlayAsia to get dollars for the PSN. Then I had to recontact PlayAsia. No, it's not a fake account. Just to download a frigging code to then buy
another story about Steve circumventing the regular measures to get himself a game.
You can't buy Parasite Eve 1 on the store. We only get Parasite Eve 2, and that's like a bit of a turkey in comparison.
Oh, right.
All right. Let's not say anything that's going to make anybody else upset in the chat right now.
I like Parasite Eve 2. I just think it's
not as good as 1.
Yeah.
That's diplomatic, Steve.
Okay.
That's what we call him, Diplomatic Steve.
That's what it was, Facebook Steve.
Yeah. It's still Facebook Steve.
I was thinking it should be Friends with Benefits, Steve, because of all the counterfeiting.
Oh, dear.
Okay. Right, let's dust this off.
Sure.
We've been going long enough. Okay.
I've just figured out the most terrifying way to play this game right now is because obviously I have you guys on my headphones. I just unlocked Mr. X, and I have not got any sound, so I have no idea if he's even outside the door or not. I'm literally sitting in the Star's office sweating right now. So if you really want to play the core, don't listen to the soundtrack.
You having a nice weather down south?
Actually, it's all right today. I was literally just thinking after this I might go sit in the garden and read a book. Hello!
Check you out. Any book?
How sophisticated.
Yeah.
It is a Resident Evil book, before you ask. Oh dear.
You delving into the novels, or is it a strategy guide?
It's it's a novels, funnily enough. I don't remember when I picked it up, but I was like, oh, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna read them, and then I don't know what am I, a third into the first one, and then I just put it down and I haven't picked it back up again. So good weather, good excuse, I suppose.
Yeah, plus it's prepped for a podcast in the future, isn't it?
Absolutely. Call it research.
Yeah, and that way it feels more like work.
Exactly. It's more work for me to do. Excellent.
How hot is it where you are?
Actually, it's been. I mean, we use. I've never been good with temperatures, but whatever it's been sort of between 80 and 90 Fahrenheit. So
that's quite solid. Yeah.
It's pretty warm. It's a little colder today. We had a little bit of rain, but it's probably nicer than
the fact that I really can't correlate as to that. I'm Celsius boy. I have no.
Yeah, I
no
literally
context.
I had to Google it, but I most recently just had a Google search history of Resident Evil pachinko machines up with images. So I put 80F into Google with images, and it just came up with pictures of bras, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough.
No matter what kind of toy it is, a kid at that age, they're just going to try and eat it. So that really make a difference.
That's why teething keys exist. That's why I used to go, buy that thing. That way it doesn't matter if they put it in their gob. That's what it's for.
They're not. The teething keys are not as good when you grow up. They taste horrible.
Yeah, they taste like Nintendo Switch cartridges.
Wow. I still have yet to taste a Nintendo Switch cartridge.
I wouldn't recommend it, but at the same time, it's like one of those. It's like gamer bucket list.
I I'm just waiting for the right one, you know.
John doesn't like any cartridge. It has to be a specific one.
Oh yeah.
What are we talking about? Smash Brothers is already out.
Ooh.
Premium.
But the other two main cast members out of the three team I found to be fairly entertaining. Wow, somebody's phone is going off. Awesome.
Oh, that's just really feeding the sound effects stuff.
That's fine.
It's actually Gail's car. It's
He's come to get me.
He's got one of those.
Sorry about that.
That's fine.
One of those fancy horns.
Yeah, my partner's phone decided to go off. So this kind of leads into the trivia I've got. The lead game director of Dino Crisis 2 went on to do the Ace Attorney games, not Shinji Mikami.
What?
Yeah.
That is mental. That's wicked. I'm looking at
Granted, those games probably would have been better if they took a Dino Crisis 2 spin.
I'll be honest. It almost doesn't surprise me because I've looked at credits for especially sort of like Japanese development studios, and you'll see somebody who worked on one game, and then the next thing that they go and work on, or the projects that follow, are so completely different from that.
This is amazing, right? So his works, this guy on Wikipedia, are listed as something in Japanese from 1995. Never heard, so whatever. So Resident Evil 2, he was a planning cooperate, main planner on Dino Crisis, director of Dino Crisis 2. Then he was the director of the first 3 Phoenix Wright games, the Apollo Justice game, Ghost Trick, Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright. So basically he's made survival horror or lawyer simulator.
Well, when are we going to get? When are we going to get survival? When are we going to get survival lawyers? You know,
Kickstarter, man.
Hey,
Don't mind me, guys. We're just talking Castlevania. It's very important, okay?
Oh, it looks like I came here at the right time.
Yeah, we're just talking about DS Castlevanias. Me and It's Burger Time are in agreement that Portrait is probably Resident and welcome to
this podcast is being degraded. It is now officially the Castlevania podcast.
I guess the first aid spray equivalent would be like Chicken in the Wall podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm several games behind that.
I'm thinking you.
So the most recent one I played was Circle of the Moon. So I've still got Harmony of Dissonance, Aria of Sorrow, Lament of Innocence. I think it's the PS2 one, so sod that.
Harmony's alright. It's just yeah, definitely don't play it straight after Symphony of the Night, and it stands out on its own. But you play it after Symphony, it's like, oh, that's what it's trying to be.
Yeah, that's what I liked about Circle, is that even for a direct follow-up, they at least put some different gameplay elements in.
Hello, Sherwin.
Definitely underrated.
Morning, guys.
Hello.
He's just looking to make sure I haven't got all sorts of funky things going on with voice and things.
We can't hear you. You sound like you're underwater.
Yeah, why is it?
I'm guessing it's picking up the wrong mic or something.
He's got a bottle of pop in front of him, so it's like speaking into it at the same time.
That's what we call a pop filter.
Hey!
Underwater.
Hey, there we go.
There's the track from Super Castlevania, which makes Sai really,
That's my favourite one. It's stupid awfulness.
I was going to say, imagine if they made like a Resident Evil stage, but they used like that director's cut rearrangement with the arguing trumpets. I love how every time Super Bunny Hop ever does a video about Resident Evil, he has to include that song.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. It's a shame, man, because that soundtrack's actually got some really interesting stuff on it, but the only thing anybody remembers is brah, 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 brah.
It is fairly memorable, to be fair.
Has there ever been any explanation for it? For why it was rearranged like that?
There's a long, confusing story about the guy writing it claiming he was deaf, and he was like a he got some popularity because it's like, oh, it's the deaf Japanese composer. And then it turned out that he was lying and someone else wrote all the music who wasn't deaf. So that makes it even more confusing.
Was the other person tone deaf?
Yes. I'm guessing they were just like, what can I get away with? It's like,
plot twist, that was the only song he originally came up with.
Yeah.
Do you know what's interesting about that, right, is whilst I don't disagree with anything you guys have just said, if you listen to that soundtrack and go, okay, so go back a couple years and assume that you're working on NES or like Game Boy, actually that soundtrack's amazing for what you could have got out of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think genuinely, I think like obviously I don't know the history of the people involved, but my guess is the guy that they actually who actually made the soundtrack just hadn't worked in the industry for perhaps a bunch of time and didn't realize the capabilities of what you could now do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the safest way to make it so that instead of it just going, no, it's just shit. I think it's the safest way.
On the one hand.
I like that logic, but yeah, if you listen to some of the other songs on there, it's like they're really good. Like they feel like the person has a grasp on actually writing for the PlayStation. Whereas that one, yeah, it almost does sound like it was like a weird chiptune song that nobody knew exactly how to make work.
Yeah, definitely. I always kind of got the idea. It sounded like something had gone wrong in the production of it. Like if you've ever messed around in like music programs with MIDIs, you can change the instruments and stuff.
Yes.
And it's like, what if you just put all of like the wrong kind of, like, what if you put percussion on like a bass line or something like that, and it just wouldn't sound right. And that's what it kind of sounded like to me. Like it was trying to be something, and then for whatever reason, it just didn't come out the right way.
Maybe that's what it was. He put it into GarageBand and it came out on the wrong line. He was just like, he'll do.
I used to mess around with that with like sound fonts, like from video games and that. And you can mess around with them. I was looking at the Final Fight one, and it included all of the sounds for like the grunts. So I had like the Final Fight theme, but it was just done with the characters' grunts. It sounded diabolical.
That's amazing. Rebecca Black, that's the one.
The thing is, you don't understand how hard it is for me not to say that.
Oh dear. I'll just edit Chambers in over the top.
Yes. In very, very cross, upset, like editor voice.
Yeah.
That's like saying, oh, I know Russian history. I once looked at Stalin's photo book.
I like the Resident Evil films. Also, I like Big Bang Theory, so guess where my tastes lie? In the garbage, but Oh, it was so mean.
They're very easy to confuse as well. Alice and Sheldon are almost completely identical.
What are they, as in, like, completely untouchable? The narrative revolves around them, kind of.
Yes, and terrifyingly, there are many, many clones of Sheldon.
I was about to say,
mind powers?
Is there a season? Is there a season of Big Bang where he like loses his superpowers, and then at the beginning of the next season he gets them back for no reason?
I would absolutely love it if that had been the last shot of The Big Bang Theory, which I don't watch, but if that had been the last shot of The Big Bang Theory, and they just sort of like pan out in this room, and there's just about 40 chambers filled up with water and Sheldon clones in all of them. It's immediately followed by the news that Big Bang Theory has been renewed for 520 seasons.
Oh, God. So our next bit of news then. Capcom will announce something at Gamescom, August 13th. Not necessarily Resident Evil, but it's Capcom. Resident Evil's on a bit of a high note lately. I mean, I don't know if you heard of it, Remake 2. What do we think about this then, boys?
Steve, you missed one, by the way. I just wanted to point that out.
Hey, I'm going to double back. Dun-dun-dun. Okay, all right. We'll edit this bit out then.
I mean, both films are the first time I've seen them, so I was.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I was a little bit surprised. I mean, Extinction's the third one, right? And that was the only one I'd seen previous. And yeah, like I was just kind of like, I went into that kind of like, oh, it's just a zombie film that has Resident Evil attached to it. But other than that, it doesn't really matter.
The sound effects of Adam eating his breakfast in the background just made that complete.
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
A bit of breakfast ASMR.
That's right. So I've got a little bit of a lead up there on podcast details, sort of like a rundown. I haven't really prepared too much, so this will be interesting. Let me pull up a Wikipedia. That'll give me a bit more information to turn into something.
Freeform is always best, though.
Yeah, maybe so. Not when you've been awake 12
Do we have
hours.
Dino Crisis recordings?
Oh, file readings? Yep, that's going to be a thing.
From Dino Crisis?
Yes.
Amazeballs. Okay.
Spare no expense.
I hope it's just some people doing Velociraptor voice.
Yeah, the files are written by...
It's literally Barney the dinosaur.
I love you. You love me. I am going to bite at thee.
I was more thinking fingerprint device or whatever, but yeah, that's fine too. Yeah, I've got to stop Dr. Kirk and get the third energy crisis solved.
It's so warm today that I genuinely have the fear that the ice cream man is going to come round at some point and we're going to ping him up on mic. That's my situation right now.
First Aid Spray is not sponsored by George, the ice cream delivery guy.
But it could be.
Yeah, but he could if he wants to.
We all just want to let everybody know that George is now on Just Eat.
That's what they call him, Just Eat George.
Just Eat George. That is so wonderfully apt for a zombie podcast.
We are waiting on an Adam, I believe.
We are indeed. I'll tag everyone.
Where Sherwin randomly appears instead and like, yes, boy!
Intercepted. Cashing in his podcast in the bank so he can join the conversation.
Back out that Sherwin's music! It's such a product of its time, isn't it, that film?
Yeah.
It's very, very 2002.
Oh, yes. Super edgelord. Very, like... very new metal.
I did have a chance to rent this film at the time. I went to Blockbuster one night, and I think it was a choice between that or Triple X. And I chose Triple X.
You have made the right
you made
choice.
The right choice.
Yes,
yeah.
I love that film.
That's a great movie. I mean, it's another dumb one, but it's great.
Yeah. It basically just starts out with a Rammstein.
I was going to say, speaking of movies I love because of their music, god damn. The blooming snowboard scene with Hatebreed.
I think because it starts with Froy Froy, which
that's right. Yep.
It was a pretty recent song at the time.
Yeah, it was
usually,
actually.
Obviously, because of the production of films, songs are always behind the times, especially if they're like things that are performed live like that, or implemented in the film in any kind of way. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised by that.
Yeah, I remember. That song was fairly recent from what I remember. The music video had just come out beforehand. I'm pretty sure I watched it for the first time the morning before I went to see the film. Me and the friend I was going with, we watched the music video. Obviously, back in the day, there watching video like on the internet was more difficult. No YouTube. You'd have to like download it from a website, which would take forever, and then hope you had the right codec to watch it. And then obviously, the music video for that song is basically that performance. It's a live performance spliced with clips from the film. And I remember walking into the cinema and my friend said to me, what's the chance that that song plays at any point in the film? Like, so we were basically whooping at the beginning of the film. Like, literally, it starts with that song. In the film is a live performance of the band and everything. That's a really cool memory that I have, funnily enough, of being like, oh, that's awesome.
So how's it going, guys?
I feel unsafe.
I feel undead. I've been awake since 4 a.m. So
since Rambo.
Since I've been awake since one Rambo.
Been awake since 4 a.m.
Oh, that's okay.
That measurement's about to change as well because there's going to be a new Rambo. But my shifts this week are 5:15 till 1:15. Good fun.
Oh. That sounds horrific.
It's is.
I realise as soon as I say that, I'm basically saying, that sounds really fucking grim. Good luck with life. Yeah, you already know this, but you already know it sounds shit because you're reading it.
I am still not awake. Like I said, I do, like, as a photographer and everything like that, I work, like, on my edits, like, at night pretty much, so I'm usually up till, like, 4 or 5 in the morning. I don't get up till usually about, like, 11, 12 in the afternoon, unless my father needs me to get him something and everything, because I take care of him as well, so it's just like, I'm like, oh my god, there's a 10, like, when you told me about it, I was like, there's a 10 a.m.?
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's kind of right, because, like, last weekend, it was funny, a buddy of mine, we went to a convention to meet up with some friends of ours, and I had some gigs I had to shoot there, and he's like, yeah, dude, I'll come get you at about 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, 7 o'clock?
Dude, I used to work nights, that's the time that I used to finish. So 7 o'clock to me is time to go to bed. Still a part of my bread, like my
what
head.
time is it for Tony right now?
Oh, for me, it's about 10:44 in the morning.
Oh, that's not too brutal. All right.
Oh, for me it is, because like I was telling him, I don't usually get up till about like 11 or 12. So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Like I said, like for photography and for like video games, I can wake up, because I was telling him, like, I had a buddy, he wanted to come get me at 7 o'clock last weekend for a convention, and I'm like, there's a 7 a.m.
Basically, is it launch day? Is it Resident Evil Remake 2? And then, yeah, I'll get up early. Why not?
Yeah,
Oh.
lucky for some.
That's true.
Some people had to wait. Some people had to wait till their wife got home because she wanted to see him want to see you play it. So I'm like sitting there with it on my fucking Xbox, and there's nothing I can do. I can't even go on the internet because it'll just be everywhere.
I did swear at one point.
That's all right. I made a note. That's all right.
Right.
Do not worry.
He's always listening.
I'm always listening. After last episode with Tony on.
Oh, bless it. Yeah.
I made an. I think I've still got that note saved on my phone where I just had to like keep writing down swears that he put out. It was amazing.
He's a New Yorker though. You've got to take it, haven't you?
Pretty much. Oh, where is it? Oh, there it is. I've got in a list here with the time codes next to it. Steve Koth. Steve Piss. Dead air. Tony 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 Dead air.
I didn't say anything bad yet. I've been a good boy. You guys are letting me down.
We're picking
by
up
the way,
slack, Adam.
Oh, okay, good.
I have such a bad memory that I can't remember if I've said anything bad.
Sorry, those notes sound like the most bizarre file reading ever.
We'll get Sonny to like.
I want to mod that into one of the games. You just find a note by a body, and it's just the.
It's just that. Get Sonny to dramatically read
Tony
it.
is Tony.
Oh man!
Even better if the note is written by Tony.
Grr, Tony. Anyway.
James, you bugger! I've seen you on Twitter now. You stealing our hashtag.
You what?
Hashtag no problems.
Damn right.
No trouble.
Retweet that.
All right, let's make sure you spell that correctly.
I will delete it and do another one.
Was there there's no U in problems. That's what it was. That's the. So it's problems.
I was being a little bit too spell checky. Okay, I'll delete it and do it again.
It's just the U. Yeah, I'm just making sure.
Oh, Troublem sounds like something that maybe Nicolas Cage might throw out in a movie. What's the trouble, guys?
I swear to God, if we hear it in some kind of famous film now, or some kind of edgy catch.
Yeah, no problems.
Ah, that is well lit, fam.
My name is Psyniac. You can just call me Psy, and joining me on the panel this week, this podcast is dangerous. There are terrible demons, and there's also... I've screwed that up, sorry. Start again. This podcast is dangerous. There are terrible... It's been a long day.
Gribblies, apparently. There are terrible Gribblies.
There are terrible Gribblies. The worst kind. This podcast is dangerous. There are terrible demons, and there's also Sherwin Matthews.
Also, not to be confused with terrible Gribblies.
Great, thanks for that.
That's right.
I'm talking like 10 minutes. So
okay, so we can probably come and get you, and then Because that takes about 10 minutes, right?
And then sure. Well, give it 20.
Motherfucker, you want to lie in and soak in this bath?
No, I gotta get dressed as well, mate.
I want to be Bloodborne. I want to play RE5. I keep
Well,
getting
so do I, mate. So do I. I want to scream at the TV screen as well, you know?
That's a point, actually. Whilst we are on a bit of a pause, Michael, we collect up random bits of conversation that are amusing outside of the podcast and mistakes, and they'll probably go on like a end of year one thing. If that's not cool, let me know in case something you do appear in there having a
one
going
last
on one
thing.
One more thing. What do you got?
Adam, you IMDb sabotage, you little. No, it's a good job I can take a joke, boy. Because otherwise I'm getting a plane to somewhere in America.
Minnesota?
You're more than welcome, Steve. You're welcome to come.
We'll hug. We'll hug, and then I'll do a power bomb. Nah, just. Well played.
Wow.
Even the major dog can lick its own nut.
You have failed. It should have been Cerberus, but that's not it.
Oh, dang it.
Yeah.
It's alright, that just means we've got an outtake for the outtake episode.
Yeah.
Oh boy.